Hello there, gamerinos and gamerinas. Welcome to UnicornStorm. This is Rady, and today I'm going to talk a bit about Hogwarts Legacy, the game Harry Potter fans have wanted for years. The closest thing we ever got to having this wish fulfilled before was Fire Emblem Three Houses, a pretty good game and a neat military academy friendship simulator, but not quite the magical boarding school adventure Potterheads wished for. As for me, I wouldn't even call myself a Harry Potter fan. I enjoyed reading the books and watching the movies with a dedicated group of friends. I had fun discussing some of the lore or the plot with others who read the books, especially since the story was written kinda like a crime mystery novel, so there was something unique about these books. And yeah, the fantasy of attending a magical school inside an old castle full of secrets and mysteries, learning powerful spells while hanging out with a bunch of other sorcerers, it's quite intriguing, so I too wanted a video game like this. Well, now it's here. A game where you assume the role of a newly enlisted student in Hogwarts School for Witchcraft and Wizardry, where you get assigned to one of the four houses, attend classes and learn all kinds of iconic spells. Where you can explore the old castle and the surrounding hamlets including Hogsmeade, have a pint of butterbeer in the Three Broomsticks Tavern, collect your very own wand from Ollivander's, battle spiders in the Forgotten Forest and discover a whole bunch of fantastic beasts. Flying over Hogwarts is pretty sweet too. In a way, this here is fan service, the game. In a good way, for the most part. And it makes sense since the original story was also just an amalgamation of random mythology and fairy tale fan service. And when it comes to staying true to the series of books a lot of millennials fell in love with, the game goes all out. Pretty much everything is here. All the weird sweets in the candy shop, unfolding staircases, moving and talking paintings, ghosts and poltergeists, and the most important thing from the books, lots of eating, and even more eating. And the odd pint of butterbeer in between. But how is the actual game? It's a mixed bag of Bertie Bott's beans. All of its systems and mechanics are incredibly simplistic. Many of its features appear either unfinished, tacked on or held back by misguided decisions. The story is just there at the best of times and broken at worst. The whole game is a technical mess, but the game world is surprisingly complex and incredibly well designed. If this game were just a walking simulator, I wouldn't mind. There is just so damn much to discover in this world, both inside the walls of the castle as well as in the surrounding hinterlands. There are so many little things to find, smaller or bigger nods to elements from the books or just neat little eye-catchers. It's astonishing just how much care and attention to detail the devs put into all the different environments. And even more astonishing is the lack of care when it comes to the rest of the game. So let's start with small stuff. Animations are often pretty basic. There are some exceptions, especially when it comes to some random events that, once again, showed the passion at least part of the team seemed to have. But when it comes to dialogues with random NPCs and quest givers, there's not much going on aside from canned animations and bad lip syncing. And those damn uncanny faces. I especially hate the goofy grin my character has in some of the scenes. Sometimes animations are outright missing. Like when the player character grabs something or when collecting something from a chest, it just appears in their hand or inventory. The crazy part is, since you already do pretty much everything by magic, the game could have just added a spell effect to it to imply that the item magically transferred to your inventory. So there wouldn't even have been a need for an elaborate animation, but the devs were too cheap to do even that. You'll see characters clipping through objects or one another all the time, even in places where the game could have just accounted for that. Like in this cafe, where the devs could have just moved the chairs further apart. Sometimes NPCs are wildly gesticulating, all alone, just standing there. Yeah, you will encounter little glitches and unintended weirdness all the time. When we move on to cutscenes, we'll find a lot more jank, but of a different kind. Many of the cutscenes are stilted, and even the artistically pretty well designed characters cross the line into the uncanny with the simple animations, outdated textures and stiff, is acting the correct word? Yet the game still overindulges in those cutscenes, with endlessly drawn out self-indulgent dialogues. It just goes on, throwing empty lore bits at you or repeating the most basic and obvious stuff. And every character is extremely eccentric or an outright caricature who shows off a comical amount of personality, wildly flails their arms around and speaks with exaggerated and stereotypical accents and weird speech patterns or mannerisms. A simple errand to buy something from a random store results in a drawn-out conversation about life for a young wizard at school. It seems the cutscenes don't know when to just stop and give control back to the player. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have scenes where everyone sounds calm and slightly amused the whole time, no matter what just happened in the game. A troll suddenly appears and nearly crushes two women in the village square, but they don't even flinch and just go on the offensive as if it were just a regular occasion. Then they try to lure the beast away from the village by letting it chase them through the whole village. And after I, a 15-year-old student, killed the troll, a sentient creature, I get some words of approval from the local police officer, and no one even mentions the horror of what just happened, and my character doesn't react to it in any way. But I mean, in my head I am playing a sociopathic villain protagonist, so I guess it's fine.
You've one less follower, Ranrock.
The game tries to come off like a movie, but come on, the story or the characters or the world building isn't interesting enough to create a movie off of it. But to be fair, that's true for the source material as well, if we're being honest. It's incredibly dumb, oversaturated with empty and useless decorative information and lots of plot holes and conveniences, but instead of playing it tongue-in-cheek, all the movies and now this game celebrate it as some kind of literary masterpiece. Holy shit, I had the FF13 fans coming down hard on me and now I'm angering the Potterheads. I might have a death wish. To me, it seems the game doesn't know what it actually wants to be. On the one hand, it tries hard to be immersive, to always stay cinematic by over-explaining and contextualizing the simple things in cutscenes. But then it breaks immersion and just freezes the game, gives you an on-screen prompt and forces you to interact with the menus. Its story features mature themes like racial tensions, corruption, and the uprising of an underprivileged species, but handles it with the subtlety and care of a child, or your average millennial. Though to be fair, this was to be expected with this particular IP. And it tries to be mysterious and doesn't tell the story in a straightforward way, but instead of masterfully creating more intrigue and have the plot slowly unfold, it seems more that it forgets about the plot. Whatever it actually might be, it's just so convoluted, or maybe just disorganized, and gets disrupted by random chases for sweets or magical marbles all throughout. It also doesn't help that the game doesn't really account for all the things you do and decisions you make during gameplay. Random students know about certain story events even though they really shouldn't, and have follow-up quests to events they weren't even part of. I guess this game tries to present it as you teaming up with a bunch of students, bond with them and go on a bunch of adventures together, kinda like it is in the actual Harry Potter novels. But that's not what's happening in this game. There are some students who are supposed to be your companions throughout the story, but you don't get that much screen time with them, especially not if you hunt for side quests in between story segments. And the fact that you have to decide who to bring along on certain quests hurts the story structure in that regard even more. Or the game should have just accounted for me not taking certain characters on certain missions. Then, the game destroys its meticulous, albeit a bit nonsensical and thrown together world building with the depiction of its magic. There don't appear to be any rules as to what can and can't be done with magic. I guess this problem once again started with the books, but now that you can freely use J.K. Rowling's undefined and unbalanced magic, it is sometimes quite a stretch as to what is and isn't possible with certain magic spells. I mean, I can use the Reparo spell to put the pieces of a broken statue back together, or fix a whole goddamn house that was completely destroyed, or to stack some boxes. And characters in cutscenes are way too quick to use magic to fix any problem. Kinda destroys all the stakes. But then there is the whimsical nature of this universe's magic, and the game shines in this regard. Fashion mannequins move around to present the clothes they're wearing, tools are moving on their own. There's this house in Hogsmeade with the 3 entries side by side that lead into 3 wholly different buildings. One quest has you pull something inside a painting towards the frame, another has the ground dynamically rising and descending in relation to a magical cube you're flinging around. Someone really had fun with going all out with just pleasant magic effects. On the mechanics side, the game is full of misguided systems that might have been good ideas at some point. The fast travel system is well contextualized with flea powder and magical torches, but a bit cumbersome to use, and it's a bit of a hassle to look up a specific fast travel point. Because you can't select the area you want to travel to directly from the map, but have to click on its name on a list. It also doesn't help that the map screen doesn't show you an actual map, but a kind of miniature of the castle with only approximations of where the fast travel locations are. No way you can pinpoint a room on this map, so keep your navigation system on speed dial. Come on, this game loves to throw references around, so why couldn't it just have the Marauders map that famously even shows people wandering around inside Hogwarts, so you'd have the perfect diegetic explanation for quest markers and the like. And why do I have to move the cursor around in the menus? Why force mouse controls on a controller? Navigating some of the menus is just a hassle due to this, even though there are enough buttons available to control everything. Opening the menu sends you to your magical journal, where you awkwardly have to move your cursor around and hover it over the different menu options. After you opened one of the pages, you can fortunately use the shoulder buttons to cycle through the different menus, but there has to be a short animation every time, and the game seems to take up quite a bit of time to load the contents of a page. So quickly navigating through your menus isn't really an option. It's not too bad, but worryingly noticeable for the PS5. Then there is the inventory system, and please tell me, why is there a limited inventory space? You find so many cosmetic pieces back to back, and when it comes to equipment slots, you have 6 different types, so why are you only able to carry 20 items in total? And then, why does the attire even have to be tied to character stats? Why can't it just be purely cosmetic? There are so many neat pieces of equipment that offer a lot of visual customization, and the devs knew about this because you have the option to use glamours from the start. That means equip whatever you want and just have it look like any other item you have collected. And this is a great addition. But why even have this extra step? Just get rid of all the attire stats and have things like magic rings and the like to give you extra defense and attack strength and the like. Then you don't need to waste your time whenever you find better equipment to attach another glamour to it. But at least you only need to discover a piece of equipment once to unlock its glamour and don't need to hold on to it. Another problem with the inventory is that since equipment becomes obsolete quite fast and there's no reason to hold on to old attire, the game is in dire need of a sell all button, or an option to select multiple items to sell at once. A vendor at Hogwarts would be great too, since it's just more wasted time to fast travel to Hogsmeade every time your inventory is full to sell everything and instantly head back. There is a perfectly suited room of requirement in the game that could just have a magical shop inside. Maybe even with just the option to sell, so that you still need to visit Hogsmeade if you want to buy new gear. Maybe later in the game there will be a shop in Hogwarts, but at least for a good chunk of the game there is no quick way to sell all your stuff without fast traveling back and forth. But speaking of the room of requirement, it's alright. You can customize how it looks and mix and match styles and can place a bunch of useful and just decorative objects inside. But you'll mostly use the room as a farm to grow your crafting ingredients, since you can just place rows and rows of crafting tables and have them create whatever materials you need while you're out adventuring. To craft potions, you need recipes that you can buy in town or get as a reward, and you also need ingredients that you can just collect in the wild or grow from seeds that you buy in town as well. Though, you only need to buy a sack of seeds once and then you can grow an infinite amount of plants with it. It's pretty basic, but it achieves what it sets out to. Potions can provide healing or buffs, but some can also be used offensively. Same with some flowers that you can throw during battle for some effect. And combat is a lot of fun. Fighting takes a page from hack and slash. Your basic attack spell, which is called basic spell and not stupor for some reason, can be cast rather quickly with the press of a button. But by holding the attack button, you ready your, let's call them, advanced spells. Stuff like Incendio, Accio, Levioso and stuff. Those have different uses both inside and outside of combat. In combat, you use them to hurt your opponents or dispel their shields. The game uses a simple but fun rock paper scissors system when it comes to guard breaks. Enemies can create differently colored shield spells and you need to attack with an advanced spell of the corresponding color to break their guard and stun them for a moment. During that stun and the accompanied spell effect, their defense is lowered so you're doing increased damage. You can even chain basic attacks and advanced spells together to maximize your damage output. Just be mindful of the spell cooldowns, especially during multi-opponent fights, so that you don't get surrounded by shielded enemies without options for recourse. Though, if your reflexes are better than your tactics, then you can just defend and counterspell enemy attacks. Whenever an enemy is about to attack you, a huge magic symbol appears above your character's head. That's when you need to hit the shield button and cast a defense spell of your own to nullify any ranged or magic damage. By holding the shield button during a successful defense, you automatically counter and break your opponent's guard and stun them, just as if you'd cast an advanced spell. Some attacks like melee charges or weapon strikes can't be shielded against and must be dodged. And then there is the ancient magic, which functions as kind of an alternate attack that's highly situational, because it's kinda like telekinesis and uses certain objects to throw at enemies that are not always available during an encounter. But there's another type of ancient magic that is functionally an ultimate attack with a random cosmetic effect that you charge up by continuously attacking enemies. The system never gets mechanically too deep, but offers a lot of flexibility with the many spell options and by that, combo options. And the frantic rhythm of the magic duels is highly enjoyable. And with the addition of talents you unlock at one point during the story, the system gets even more versatile. There aren't too many talents to choose from, but most have a direct effect on your gameplay. Except for the 2 talents to boost your health potion effect, none of the perks just give you a percentage bonus to attack or defense or something. Nah, they actually alter your spells. Your attack spells become AoE attacks, your dark arts inflict curses to inflict more damage with follow-up attacks. You get the ability to sprint while cloaked. Most of the options are pretty intriguing, but beware, you can't unlock all of it during a playthrough, so choose wisely. Outside of combat, you use your spells for simple tasks. Create a light in dark areas, pull a platform towards you, light vines and cobwebs aflame. Sometimes there are more unique and inventive puzzles where you have to use your spells more creatively. But most of the time you use the same spell over and over again to grab the game's many collectibles. Use Levioso to open a sphere on a statue. Use Lumos to guide a butterfly to a picture frame. Use Revelio to find lore pages. Use Accio to snatch lore pages without any lore out of the air. And this kinda extends to the side quests. Many of the side quests are quite simple affairs. Fetch and collectible quests that don't really distinguish themselves from all the other collectibles. Instead of snatching flying pages with the Accio spell, you snatch whole flying books. Or marbles. But then there are some quests that lead you into small dungeons and require a bit of puzzle solving. Well, I guess there are enough puzzles that just count towards your collectibles, so these quests are again just the same challenges with a different coat of paint. But it doesn't matter. The puzzles in these games, while not too hard, are actually pretty fun and use the spellcasting system rather nifty. It's always fun to find a unique, somewhat unique puzzle in the labyrinthian halls of Hogwarts. Those kinda became the highlight for me. Often you're offered a moral choice at the end of a side quest. They're mostly flavor without actual consequences. Depending on your choices, some characters react to you friendly or hostile when you pass them in the halls of Hogwarts. You still get the quest rewards, even when you don't actually complete the task. I'm actually fine with the game not having an overarching morality system. This way I can just play my character however I want, without fearing to be locked into this or that ending. Not that there is a lot of role-playing possible in this game. But couldn't there have been some consequences, at least during the quest resolution? Why do I get the little wand modification if I decided not to deliver the girl's marbles back to her? She should be furiously leaving without rewarding me, and maybe another student comes over, thanking me for not enabling her weird habits and gives me a slightly different reward. This is just another element that feels a bit cheap. Completing quests rewards you with some XP. Another way to get XP is by completing challenges. And pretty much any mechanic in this game is tied to one or more challenges. Stuff like find so many pages in Hogwarts or Hogsmeade or the surrounding hamlets. Or fight so many enemies of a particular type. Use certain combos in combat. Complete a certain amount of main and side quests. So fighting enemies on its own doesn't give you XP, only completing the associated challenges. So there's no actual way to grind in this game, I guess. Not that it matters because you level up pretty fast. Then again, leveling up is kinda superfluous. Levels in this game are mostly used to gate off side quests and equipment, which makes leveling more of a nuisance than giving you the feeling of growing stronger. It does give you extra hit points and talent points, though both of it could have been achieved through collectibles and challenges. Once again, the game just added a meaningless extra step, supposedly just because it needs to have XP and levels to be seen as an actual RPG. It's not really a problem, but another half-heartedly implemented system in this game, and those begin to pile on. Challenges themselves reward you with a lot of different things after completion. Most give you some piece of equipment or a glamour, but then there are the Trials of Merlin that reward you with extra inventory slots. Collecting ancient magic traces rewards you with an increased ancient magic capacity. Some combat challenges reward you with charms to enchant your equipment. So completing all the challenges organically makes you stronger and more powerful. The system is actually pretty great. So that's why I think there shouldn't have been a leveling system tacked onto it. And yeah, I'm well aware that my critique so far has been more on the negative side, but there's just a considerable amount of flaws and problems with this highly enjoyable game. Oh, and it does deserve all the criticisms it receives. Well, most of it at last. But it's still so much fun. When you're not encountering texture pop-in, visual glitches, failing animations, clipping errors, lighting errors, weird fragments popping in and out of existence, and many more visual oddities, and you will experience that a lot, the game is visually a real treat. All the different areas and places are beautifully designed. It's a real shame that your interface clutters the whole screen and doesn't let you really appreciate the beauty that is this game world. And sadly, you can only turn those HUD elements off completely, not have them fade out whenever they are not needed. It's a shame because from an art design standpoint, this is an amazing game world. Every room in this castle differs from the rest. In the way the lighting works, in the flooring and wall patterns, in the small differences in the color scheme, in the decoration. Moving paintings and statues really give you that sense of magic when you stroll through the halls of this castle. There are so many neat details. Hogsmeade is a picturesque little English village with just enough stylization to make it appear like it's out of a fairy tale. It doesn't look like something completely outrageously fantastic. but everything is just a little bit crooked. Just whimsical enough to look the part for a wizard's village, but still realistic enough to be a believable part of the real world. Exploring these places is just so much fun and there is so much to find, be it an actual challenge or reward or just another beautiful vista. And that's what it comes down to. You have this more than just rough gem, this incredibly flawed, glitchy, tedious game that offers a so goddamn engaging experience. As a Potterhead, you will get so much out of this game, just because this is Hogwarts come to life. But even if you're not at all interested in this whole universe, this game world, the castle especially, is so well crafted. Just see it as the most complex and carefully designed mega dungeon ever been created in any game. Full of puzzles, collectibles, quests and goofy little Easter eggs. You will get something out of it. This game is just such an enjoyable mess, I can't describe it in any other way. So I'm just gonna wish you a magical day. That's it from Rady, and I hope to see you again on the next game.